So if you're familiar with my content, I have made quite a bit of references to this video here today and my love of manga in general. Here I wanted to make something different and talk about my gateway into collecting and enjoying manga, and that was with Shonen Jump being brought to the US. I've teased this specific video for a little while, and in doing something a little bit different, I hope you enjoy today's video. I also just want to say a huge thank you for all the support on the channel. Recently, it has been mind-blowing and I am very thankful for it. Today's video, again, is different from the usual content I'm making, but don't worry, that regular content is still coming up, the same cartoon content. This is just something I really wanted to do. And as you can tell, I am just really excited to do this video. And no, it's not just for the love of all this behind me, it's because I get to work with a creator who I genuinely admire and I think makes incredible content. So please give a huge welcome to my friend, Negative Legend.
Oh, hey! I don't get to tackle a lot of topics concerning anime or manga. This video has been something I've been excited for a long while now. And not because I had planned to do a video very similar to this a long time ago, but because I was so busy getting distracted reading so many manga series that Jordan had to come slap some sense into me and put me into the editing chair and force me to freaking write this script so that I could get it done.
Truly happy to have you here. So for all of you who are still here checking out this video, I do appreciate it. I hope you enjoy this journey through the history of Shonen Jump and some cool insight to our personal journeys through Shonen Jump in general.
In order to understand Shonen Jump, you need to understand the founding of Shueisha, which was founded by Shogakukan. Whenever you see Viz Media, that is owned by Shueisha. Kind of like how you see Marvel and Star Wars is now actually technically part of Disney. But we're gonna focus on Shueisha because we're talking about Shonen Jump, and the Shonen Jump is Shueisha's creation. Most of us in North America are most familiar with seeing Viz Media as the publishing company on the spines of literally every Shonen Jump manga. But Shueisha didn't create Viz Media.
Viz Media was created by Seiji Horobuchi, who moved to California from Japan and wanted to start exporting American entertainment to Japan, and eventually importing Japanese entertainment to an American audience. And it was because of Viz Media that we got the term graphic novels, since during this time, manga needed to be renamed to be more approachable to an American audience. Sort of like how 4Kids would change a lot of anime to better suit children, even though some may argue that they butchered those shows, which they did. It was still a necessary evil for anime to be somehow accepted in the West.
And Shueisha and Shogakukan both gave Viz Media startup capital, or money. If Viz Media was successful, it would open up a massive market for Shueisha and Shogakukan, that market being literally all of America. Now, Shueisha publishes manga exclusively through Viz Media, and in 2005, Shueisha and Viz Media merged into the same company. But Shonen Jump is actually a spin-off of Shueisha's own series of Shonen Book, which was made to compete with Shoujo Book, dating all the way back to 1948. Shueisha had been publishing weekly Shonen Jump Magazine ever since 1968, the main demographic being primarily boys, young children, as shonen literally means early years or small years, depending on how you translate it.
During the creation of Weekly Shonen Jump, they asked Go Nagai, who had previously worked for Kodansha and Shogakukan, to make 4 short one-shot manga, and whatever was the most popular would be serialized for their bi-weekly series. And because of his series, Renshi Gakuen, having a woman in a bikini and women flipping their skirts to show their, undergarments.
They're underpants, right? Oh yeah.
It introduced eroticism into Weekly Shonen Jump and skyrocketed the sales of the magazine to 1 million copies, along with a lot of controversy. Teachers were very upset when they saw this sort of thing being marketed towards elementary schoolers, but that sort of imagery never really went away, as we still see that sort of thing today. And it's because of Weekly Shonen Jump pushing what was acceptable, it led it to be far more notorious. And because it had younger, newer artists working on it, it definitely appealed to a younger demographic. I want to first say thank you to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring today's video. A longtime sponsor of the channel here, so thanks to you all who watch and support the sponsors as it truly helps out the channel. Surfshark VPN is a virtual private network. It helps you secure your digital life, in turn helping your real life by putting your worries at ease. Surfshark offers one of the best full coverage VPN packages out there with an unlimited number of devices that can all run under one subscription, all at the same time. Seriously, as many devices as you want. The Surfshark app itself is available on all platforms, PC, Mac, and of course the Linux users out there, you're covered as well, even smart TVs and video game consoles, all along with 24/7 live customer support and a full 30-day money-back guarantee to make sure you know it's completely risk-free by giving them a shot, as well as one of the best security measures with their strictly no-logs policy, which encrypts your data, meaning that they do not keep any of it, nor does anyone know what you're doing online. Yes, I am talking about you, Janiac. Want to watch something that isn't streaming in your country? No worries. Just connect to any of the servers Surfshark has around the world and boom! You can access streaming libraries of even more content that otherwise would not be available in your country. It's fast and it's easy to use, filled with features that go beyond just the basics with a regular VPN. If you want to protect yourself online while browsing, as well as help support the channel, you can get Surfshark VPN at surfshark.deal/JordanFringe and enter promo code JordanFringe for 83% off and an extra 3 months for free. So click the link down below in the description and get protected today. Thanks once again to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back to it.
Now, Weekly Shonen Jump is the most popular manga magazine publication, beating out its parent company's Shogakukan's Weekly Shonen Sunday, as well as beating out the competition of Kodansha, who publishes Weekly Shonen Magazine. Jump, and because like all of them say shonen, I'm going to refer to Shonen Jump as Jump because that's how you can tell it's from Shueisha. Jump learned how to separate itself from its competition very early on. They knew they had to be different from their competitors. And there was a big boom of romantic comedies during the 80s, and Shonen Jump was being pushed to make romantic comedies during this time. But instead, they focused on the exact opposite, as they should, giving us series like Fist of the North Star with a more Rambo approach to a storytelling, that of which gave readers something different if they didn't want romantic comedies. And that's something I really appreciate about Shonen Jump, because the hardest thing to do in terms of setting up a business or making YouTube videos is differentiating yourself from everyone else. They even went so far as to continue serializing series that in terms of ratings weren't performing well, but the editors believed that it had something unique about it, and that's what they really needed in their magazine. They focus on two things: adapting with the times and originality. And that's probably why manga is just so different from what we see in the West. It's not just that manga comes from a different country, it's that they have to constantly strive to be original and unique, which is actually also why I really appreciate comic books, because much in the same vein as manga, they have to be original and unique, and you get a lot of stories you would otherwise not be exposed to if you just read regular novels.
For me, when it came to being introduced to the wonderful and weird world of manga, it happened in two different ways. Two very unique different ways. With manga itself, my first volume of anything was this: Yu-Gi-Oh! Volume 1. So much like my friend Negative Legend here, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was very much an instant gateway for me as well. So for this specifically, when I was a kid, I was actually going to Blockbuster with my mother to probably rent Chameleon Twist 1 or 2 for the millionth time, but upon actually going to check out, I noticed this on the magazine rack, and already being a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! In general, or what we knew Yu-Gi-Oh! Was here in the West, I saw this and I said, what is that? And as I started flipping through it, I noticed one distinct thing. This is not the Yu-Gi-Oh! That I remember. In fact, it feels like I discovered some mythical secret origins of where Yu-Gi-Oh! Came from within this book. I know, I was a little junior detective. This specific version, though, isn't the standard card-based dueling phenomenon it was highly known for, but rather what would be dubbed as Season 0 of the show itself. Here, obviously serialized in manga form, but in the grander scope of things, that's how this particular series of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is known as. From Volume 1 to Volume 7, it would cover the events prior to where the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime would start. That, however, would present itself in manga form as well, with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist series following right after. The first 7 standalone volumes of Yu-Gi-Oh! Though were all done with a darker tone filled with other games that would cause the Spirit of the Millennium puzzle to take over and intervene in some pretty messed up situations. From being at the end of a barrel tricking the person to not move, or else they would get lit on fire, stopping a creep from harassing Anzu, or as many know her as Taya in the West. From death to dastardly deeds, this manga changed my whole perspective on what Yu-Gi-Oh! Was, and that there was this whole other medium I had yet to explore.
Man,
shut your bitch ass up. Nobody asked you that a bitch ass thing. You better shut the fuck up.
Now, my introduction to Shonen Jump, however, was a little bit more weird. So now that I had the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga, I would actually spend my lunchtimes at school reading it, so now you can tell how cool and popular I was at school by doing so. One lunch period before winter break, however, one of the school's janitors actually came up to me and handed me a magazine. Shonen Jump's first anniversary magazine, volume 13, January 2004's issue. I'm showing you this side because the other side, well, it's missing that side. And also the reason why this was January's issue, even though it was before winter break, is because these magazines would actually release about a little over a month before so that they were actually titled as. The janitor himself, being a huge fan of manga, actually noticed that in the whole school itself, I was the only one who has at least physically proven that he was into manga as well. In a kind gesture, handed me the magazine and said, hey, keep it, enjoy. And now with a lot of things Shonen Jump and even some of the manga for Yu-Gi-Oh! You would also get like a cool Yu-Gi-Oh! Promo card. As you can see, it was this really cool Red Eyes Black Dragon. That's my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Monster in general. No, it didn't come with it. Not that I needed it to come with it, but you know, it did come with it. Look, I was grateful enough to get the magazine in general, and plus since then I've gotten the card myself plenty times over. But it was at this moment that I was introduced to the whole shebang. Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, Naruto, One Piece, Shaman King, and Hikaru no Go. From that moment on, I was enthralled in this new world. I wasn't and never have been a big reader, both in part for never taking much of an interest, and sometimes letters get jumbled up for me in my head. But this was something so different, and every new manga I tried, I felt like I was truly entering all these really cool new worlds. And it's all credited to a school janitor who decided with an act of kindness to give a gift of this to a student whom he has never spoken with ever. So I am very thankful to that person in doing so. Little side tangent here though, but there was this page I totally forgot about in the issue that I rediscovered about a year ago, all about these exclusive versions of Volume 1 covers, specifically here showing off for Yu-Gi-Oh! And Naruto, and I also believe there was one for Yu Yu Hakusho and Shaman King, and hey, maybe there's more, but they had these hollow foil rainbow limited edition cover variants. There were only 5,000 of each made, and eBay makes me sad when looking them up. Yeah, I'm pretty jealous of these beauties. I would really love the rainbow covers. It's no different than this, it's holographic. I like how it's shiny. Going beyond all this, my local bookstore growing up was Borders, and over the years it went from having a singular tiny shelf of some manga tucked away in the corner of the store to at one point having the whole middle of the store dedicated to manga, with rows and rows of shelves and with a whole anime and manga inspired hangout area to read or converse with fellow readers in, to, well, nothing. Borders sadly went out of business, but those memories I cherish dearly.
ぶっちぎりだぜ週刊少年ジャンプ少年ジャンプ売り込むんじゃないの
My first exposure to Shonen Jump Magazine was when bookstores like Barnes & Nobles and Borders were just starting to dip their toe into manga when it was just starting to rise in popularity. There was always a small shelf, never bigger than like 1 or 2 shelves, that had a good amount of manga, but usually you could never find volume 1 because all the people who were fanatics would always get there first, and you could never get the issues that you wanted, so thinking I could never actually buy what I wanted to or try things out. And they would put either Shonen Jump in the manga section because it had manga, or in the magazine section because, well, they didn't really know what to do with it, and so you had to search around for it. I was always more interested in Shonen Jump Magazine because they had Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards in it. And if you know me on my channel, my entire channel was founded on trading card games. It's not that way anymore, but that's what I was obsessed with. I don't remember if I asked my parents or if I managed to get some birthday money, but I eventually got my hands on a issue of Shonen Jump Magazine. I intentionally grabbed one where it had Yugi on the cover because I thought that's what the entire magazine would be about, based on the cover. And that's when I was exposed to several different series, each of them getting, you know, one or two chapters inside the magazine. And I was young, so I didn't know how I really felt about it, but I did know I recognized a lot of the series inside of it, especially since my cousins would watch Dragon Ball Z and Bleach, and I'm like, hey, I know that. And that's when I learned more about the volumes of manga, that of which we're more familiar with, the Tankobon publication of manga. It went from seeing the chapters in Shonen Jump to getting me volumes of Yu-Gi-Oh! And reading all the way through, and to me, eventually just picking up wherever I could find any series I was interested in the library, my school's library. It was very hard. I could not get Trigun. I still haven't read it, because it kept getting checked out, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to read it or not. And until now, where I have so many of them, and I'm trying to sell them, which is just a massive hassle, and it's taking me a long time. My collection of manga was insane. And I've definitely fallen into the trap of not wanting to watch anime anymore because I can just read the manga faster than I can watch the show.
It's crazy to think that this year in 2022, in March, is 10 years since the final physical Shonen Jump magazine here in the States was released. That issue being labeled for April and featured a cast of Shonen Jump characters with the tagline, "See you online, sjalpha.com." This would be the future setting its course. In fact, it had already begun at the start of 2012 in January with Weekly Shonen Jump, a digital version of the magazine published by Viz Media, and it being the real successor to the physical magazine. The final April issue of the magazine, however, really didn't feel like a goodbye to print form, but more the sad dwindling efforts of a company that had already moved on months ago. At this point in Shonen Jump's print run, the magazine went from these massive phone book size experiences to these thin, fraction of the size, momentary distractions. At least to me, it was sad to see this progression, or should I say the opposite of progression, when the more I supported the magazine, the less I received in my hands. Alright, that's a little hyperbolic. There was still somehow a similar amount of pages between this industrial phone book looking thing and this fractional math problem. Thinner pages, less ads, a keto diet, I don't know how they did it, but to my eye, this clearly looks like a lot less than this. I mean, just look at this cover. Sure, it has some staples of Shonen Jump characters on it, but it would have been nice to see a little collab of everyone back on the cover for a final goodbye or something. But hey, at least in between all the advertisements for the digital version here, we still got a final promo Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Now, a lot of series that of which you've read in Shonen Jump magazine back in like the early 2000s have either disappeared because their ratings weren't popular enough, or they've moved to other magazines. Some of those other magazines also being owned by Shueisha. In my case, I always wondered what happened to Yu-Gi-Oh! Since the original run of Kazuki Takahashi's Yu-Gi-Oh! With Yugi Moto finished, and we had things like Yu-Gi-Oh! GX and 5Ds and Arc 5, and we're wondering, where are these being published? Or with Dragon Ball after Dragon Ball Z, and now we have Dragon Ball Super, both of which are being published in V-Jump magazine. Or maybe if you saw my video on Shaman King, you'll know that the series of Shaman King in Shonen Jump wasn't all that popular and was ended very abruptly. And then it went dark, and then Shaman King started being published in other magazines. Not even, some of them not even being owned by Shueisha. Now you can find it in Shonen Magazine Edge and Nakayoshi Magazine, which is published by Kodansha. You know, depending on what series you're reading, the organization of the Shaman King manga is really weird. Or maybe if you remember that special one-shot chapter of Death Note, that wasn't published in Shonen Jump magazine. That was published in Jump Square, which was also owned by Shueisha. From what I've been led to understand is that certain series will be put under contract to be published in certain magazines, while others will just be picked up wherever they can. And there are some series that will last maybe like 5 chapters before disappearing if it doesn't get enough traction. And there's actually several magazines that rip the idea of trading cards in every issue idea from Shonen Jump, only they'll have something different, like a clear folder like I got from Ultra Jump magazine, or this special nylon bag that's included with the purchase of the Nakayoshi magazine that I got. I was actually originally planning to talk about where all these series went to and how there's so many different types of magazines just to split up the genres and the age demographics, but I never got around to it because I wasn't sure if anime and manga would succeed on my channel, even though I love it so much. So when Jordan approached me to make this video, you have no idea how excited I was. I'm like, I already got ideas floating in my head. I got you. Shonen Jump, at least in the West, they decided that since releasing chapters in a magazine format wasn't really appealing to the West as much as they should, they went completely digital. Now, if you want any new magazines physically, you need to get them imported from Japan, like I have. And I always felt like the idea of Weekly Shonen Jump just wasn't communicated properly to a Western audience, because a lot of us, when I was stupidly young and in elementary school, when I would be dumb and bring the Target kunai and shuriken Naruto set to school, I had no idea what I was looking at when I would see Shonen Jump magazine on a shelf. And I have no doubt that there's several other kids that was my age who also didn't understand what the heck was going on with this. And when we would see these magazines, we would know that it was just safer to buy the tankobon or omnibuses that were being put on the shelves directly next to the magazines, and so the magazines were just being largely ignored. But I cannot argue that Shonen Jump going purely digital is not only the smart move, but also far more convenient for someone like me, who now reads almost entirely digitally, because I don't have the space for all those volumes of manga anymore. I had a lot of collectible out-of-print manga, and it hurts that I had to sell it.
Unlike my friend here, when it comes to the digital side of collecting and reading manga, it is something that I have not embraced myself. While so many other forms of media shifting to a digital age is something I have embraced or are starting to, with things like music being something I 99% only purchase digitally. Yes, I said purchase. No, I do not have a Spotify account. I do enjoy, however, embracing the tangible aspects of collecting what I enjoy, from movies to video games and of course, manga. There is just no comfortable replacement for me than holding one of these books in my hands and actually flipping through the pages. Sure, it's now way more practical to have everything digitally for space reasons, and it's more cost efficient, I'm sure, but I just can't bring myself to do that, even though I'm sure this modern day aspect of things will eventually force me to, and no pun intended, jump aboard. Now, Shonen Jump gives a solid offering online in the States through Viz Media's website to catch up on the latest chapters of your favorite manga, as well as plenty you may not know of to explore. They also offer a subscription service that for $2 a month grants you access to the legacy catalog featuring 15,000 manga chapters. It does, though, have a limit of only 100 chapters being allowed to be read in one day, but I don't think most people are reading that many chapters in a single day regardless.
週刊少年ジャンプ
お前はもう回し読みできない。
イエイ
Oddly enough, we've seen a massive spike in sales of manga. Or not so surprisingly if you consider that entertainment in general has spiked, given that everyone is inside all the time and got very bored. People like to talk about the sales of video games, most notably Animal Crossing, but manga sales not only boosted, but also caused a problem in the secondary market. Or, you know, secondhand sellers on places like eBay.
I know that whenever I go to my local comic store, they always talk about how much manga sales have spiked. And now it's actually hard to find certain volumes of manga that are not even out of print. The popularity of manga has just made regular series scarce. I mean, I was reading Seraph of the End, and I couldn't find volumes like 3 and 5 because they were just being price gouged for like 30 bucks on eBay, and like my comic shop just couldn't get them in. And I'd go to like a bunch of places. I'd go to a bunch of secondhand stores. I'd go to a bunch of used manga stores. They didn't have it. And you know, also Destiny lovers, but we can't show a picture of that on here. On Statista, you can actually see the sales of Shueisha go up in spike in 2020 to around 200 billion yen. And digital sales of manga has been steadily going up since 2014, literally more than doubling in the last 6 years. Compared to the net sales of Shueisha's now competitor Shogakukan, where their sales haven't actually seen a drastic change and is in fact about half the net sales of Shueisha.
This video is partially really just a love letter to my personal childhood with manga, how I discovered this medium and what spawned my collection. And while I admit in my older years now I haven't been as active with both my collecting and reading as much as I would like, it is something that I'm actively trying to fix. Picking up new series, finishing old series, just overall rediscovering those nice memories of laying on my bed and letting those interesting worlds fill my imagination. So let us know in the comments what's your experience with manga or Shonen Jump in general. This is not Shonen Jump, this is Tokyo Pop. Ah, Prince of Tennis, now that's Shonen Jump.
And you can follow us on Twitter if you want to recommend us series that we should read. I know I'm finally getting around to reading Bleach, now that, Tite Kubo is back at it again?
Their channel is linked down below in the description. Please go over and subscribe. Trust me, you won't regret it. But also make sure to hit like and subscribe on this video here if you like the content and you'd like to see more of it, whether it's the usual content I post here on the channel or something different like this every once in a while. Connect with me on Twitter, or else the next volume in your favorite manga series will be all filler. I'll see you soon, but until then, later.